Texas lets you own 20 acres of land for less than what most people spend on their cell phone bill. No down payment, no credit check, just a monthly payment of $260 and the property is yours. That's not a timeshare pitch or a scam. It's the real estate market in parts of rural Texas right now, and thousands of retirees are quietly using it to engineer a lifestyle where their monthly expenses basically disappear. Here's what nobody tells you about off-grid living in Texas. It's not about becoming a survivalist or dropping off the face of the earth. It's financial engineering. You're trading one big upfront investment for the elimination of nearly every recurring bill you currently pay. No electric bill, no water bill, no building inspector showing up to tell you what kind of house you're allowed to live in. And if you play the property tax system correctly, using agricultural exemptions and the over 65 freeze written into the Texas Constitution, you can get your annual tax bill down to literally $1 per acre. We're about to walk through 8 specific Texas counties where the barriers to independent living are at their absolute lowest. You'll see the exact land prices, the infrastructure costs, the tax strategies, and the trade-offs you need to understand before you make a move. Some of these places are harsh deserts where water is your constant obsession. Others are green forests where the rain does half the work for you. Here are 8 Texas places where you can live off-grid for almost free. Hudspeth County. Hudspeth County is where people go when they want to prove that owning land in America doesn't have to cost a fortune. This is the Trans-Pecos region, high desert, wide open, and so far west that El Paso feels like a distant memory. You can buy land here with $0 down. Owner financing has turned property acquisition into something that resembles a car payment, except at the end you actually own something that can't depreciate to nothing. A 10-acre tract will run you about $135 a month. 20 acres cost around $260. The total price on that 20-acre parcel is typically $32,800, but you're not dealing with a bank or a credit check. Some buyers have closed on 40-acre tracts for as low as $28,000 in recent sales, which works out to $700 per acre. The county has never adopted a residential building code for unincorporated areas. You can live in an RV, you can live in a shipping container, you can build a tiny house on a trailer and park it on your property, and as long as you're not creating a sewage problem, nobody from the county is going to show up with a clipboard. This regulatory freedom is what makes the monthly cost of living approach zero. The catch is water. Hudspeth County sits in an arid zone. Most properties come with water rights, which legally allows you to drill a well. The problem is depth. You're often looking at needing to go deep, sometimes over 1,000 feet, to hit a sustainable aquifer. Drilling costs run anywhere from $10,000 to $30,000. If you can't afford a well right away, you haul water. The city of Van Horn sells rack water from municipal stations. For residential customers outside city limits, the first 2,000 gallons cost about $30. Beyond that, every additional 1,000 gallons runs around $5. Most people install large polyethylene tanks and maintain a reserve of around 2,500 gallons, refilling every few weeks. Once you've solved water, you move to energy. Hudspeth County is in one of the highest solar potential zones in the entire country. A 5-kilowatt solar array with battery storage can provide all the electricity you need indefinitely. The upfront cost is somewhere between $15,000 and $25,000, but after that, your power bill is zero. You've capitalized the utility, and for the next 25 years, the sun pays your electric bill. Property taxes complete the picture. If you establish an agricultural valuation, most commonly by running a few head of livestock or maintaining beehives, you drop the assessed value dramatically. Once you switch to a wildlife management plan, your tax bill on 20 acres can be as low as $20 a year. When you turn 65, Texas law freezes the school district portion of your property tax, and from that point forward, even if land values triple, your tax bill doesn't move. Brewster County. Brewster County is the largest county in Texas by land area, and it's become a global destination for people who want to live off-grid without feeling like they're doing it alone. The area around Terlingua has developed a reputation as a place where the off-grid community is not just tolerated, but celebrated. Off-grid land in Brewster County has a median list price around $30,000. The average size is about 62 acres, which works out to roughly $482 per acre. That's higher than Hudspeth, but you're paying for access to a more established established community and a landscape that people actually want to visit. Brewster County has no residential building codes in unincorporated areas. People here have built earthships, structures made from rammed earth and recycled materials that use passive solar heating and cooling. Others live in modified shipping containers or hand-built cabins. The county doesn't care what you build as long as you're not creating a public health hazard. The geology is where things get tricky. Much of the county sits on volcanic rock, which means groundwater is stored in fractures rather than porous sedimentary layers. Drilling a well here is unpredictable. You might hit water at 300 feet, or you might go 1,000 feet and get nothing. Because of that, rainwater harvesting becomes critical. Texas law prohibits homeowners associations from banning rainwater collection, and the equipment is exempt from sales tax. A typical setup involves a large catchment area feeding into storage tanks that hold anywhere from 5,000 to 10,000 gallons. In a county where well drilling is a gamble, a good rainwater system can be your primary water source. The trade-off is logistical. The nearest Home Depot is hours away. During the summer monsoon season, roads can flood, and you might be cut off from town for a day or two. Contractors are often unwilling to travel this far for small jobs, which means you need to be comfortable handling your own repairs or relying on neighbors who've been doing this longer than you. But the community aspect is real. People who live in Terlingua tend to help each other. If your solar inverter dies and you don't know how to troubleshoot it, there's usually someone within a 10-mile radius who does. That communal autonomy is what makes the isolation manageable. Red River County. Red River County sits in the northeast corner of Texas, and it represents the opposite end of the spectrum from the desert counties. This is the piney woods, dense forests, high annual rainfall, and soil that actually supports traditional gardening and small-scale farming. For people who find the idea of hauling water or rationing every gallon psychologically exhausting, Red River County removes that variable entirely. Water security is a given here, not an engineering problem. The county has explicitly chosen not to adopt residential zoning or building codes. A 6.5-acre rural homestead near Clarksville was recently listed for just under $50,000. A 126-acre timber tract in Avery sold for $269,000, and an 8-acre recreational lot in Bagwell went for $60,000. The price per acre is higher than in West Texas, but you're getting land that produces something. The trees can be harvested for timber. The soil supports vegetables, fruit trees, and pasture for small livestock. One of the underappreciated advantages of Red River County is how easy it is to establish utilities in the absence of strict codes. Local power companies will hook up electricity to non-standard installations like meters mounted on temporary poles, which is useful if you're living in an RV while you build a permanent structure. Plumbers follow state septic standards, but beyond that, there's very little oversight. You can phase your move onto the land without worrying about a building inspector shutting you down mid-project. Crime data for the county shows a total crime rate of about 1,023 incidents per 100,000 people, which is dramatically lower than the Texas state average of 5,489. Violent crime is nearly non-existent, 0.03 per 1,000 residents. Property crime is also minimal at 0.36 per 1,000. For retirees concerned about safety in rural areas, these numbers matter. Healthcare access is another advantage. Red River County is within an hour's drive of Texarkana, which has level 1 and level 2 trauma centers. If you have a heart attack or a serious accident, the ambulance can get you to advanced care within the so-called golden hour. As you get older, that peace of mind becomes more valuable. The extreme isolation of counties like Terrell or Hudspeth works fine when you're healthy, but if your health starts to decline, being 3 hours from the nearest hospital is a real problem. The forest itself provides resources that desert land doesn't. You have firewood for heating, you have timber for building. The tree cover gives you natural privacy without needing miles of empty land between you and your neighbors. The downside is that all that vegetation reduces your solar efficiency. You'll need to clear a large enough area for your solar panels to get unobstructed sunlight, and even then, you're not getting the same solar potential you'd have in West Texas. Many people supplement with a generator or stay connected to the grid if it's available. Red River County is the green alternative. Water falls from the sky. The soil is productive. The forest keeps you cool in summer and provides fuel in winter. You're still living independently, but the environment is working for you instead of against you. Val Verde County. Val Verde County occupies a middle ground between the extreme isolation of the Trans-Pecos and the accessibility of the hill country. The county is centered around Del Rio and the Amistad Reservoir, and it offers something rare in off-grid Texas: reliable access to water without the need for extreme engineering. The Devil's River and Lake Amistad provide a level of water security that simply doesn't exist in the high desert. The real estate market is dominated by large tracts. The median lot size for properties currently on the market is 2,310 acres, and the median list price is $254,900. These are full-scale ranches, often leased out for hunting or grazing. A 134-acre tract at High Lonesome Ranch might have a market value in the hundreds of thousands, but because it's under an agricultural valuation, the annual property tax can be as low as $1 per acre. The mechanism is the same as in other counties. You establish agricultural use, typically through a grazing lease or a wildlife management plan, and the county appraises your land based on its productive value rather than its market value. A property that might sell for $300,000 gets taxed as if it's worth $30,000. When you hit 65, the school district portion of that tax freezes, and even if land values in the county double over the next decade, your bill stays exactly where it is. The soil in Val Verde is better than what you'll find in Brewster or Hudspeth. The Val Verde series, silty clay loams developed from Cretaceous-age sediments, support small-scale gardening with irrigation. The proximity to the reservoir also means you're not facing the same water-hauling logistics you deal with farther west. Wells are still deep, and you'll need to navigate Texas water rights, but the general water table is more reliable. What makes Val Verde attractive is the balance between privacy and access. You can own a canyon rim homestead where your nearest neighbor is a mile away, but you're only 20 to 40 minutes from Del Rio, which has shopping, medical facilities, and basic amenities. If you want to stay connected to the Texas power grid, you can, though many residents still choose solar to avoid the cost of running lines across rugged terrain. The county is also home to a level 2 trauma center, which is a significant upgrade over the air medical only options you get in the most remote counties. For retirees, that access can be the difference between a manageable health scare and a fatal delay. As you age, the calculation shifts. The solitude of Terrell County might be appealing when you're 60, but by 75, proximity to advanced medical care starts to look like the smarter move. Val Verde isn't the cheapest entry point, and the large tract sizes mean you're looking at a bigger investment up front, but the long-term tax savings, the water security, and the proximity to infrastructure make it a strategic choice for people who want independence without gambling on their ability to manage extreme isolation. Llano and Saba counties. The Texas Hill Country is famous for rolling limestone hills, spring-fed rivers, and real estate prices that have been climbing for 2 decades. But Llano and Saba counties remain outliers, places where you can still find unrestricted land that allows for off-grid living without the regulatory burden creeping into other parts of the Hill Country. The key word here is discreet. Local authorities in these counties operate under a live and let live philosophy. They basically don't care what you build as long as you're not creating a public health problem or annoying your neighbors. This isn't an official policy, it's a cultural norm. If you're putting in a composting toilet and a rainwater system on a wooded 10-acre lot, nobody from the county is going to show up to inspect it. The catch is that you need to stay under the radar. If you generate complaints, raw sewage running onto a neighbor's property, for example, then the county will get involved. The strategy is to handle your waste properly from the start, which usually means installing a state-compliant septic system even though it's not technically required. That one-time cost of $5,000 to $10,000 buys you peace of mind. Both counties allow tiny houses with no minimum square footage requirement in most rural areas, and building codes in unincorporated parts are minimal or non-existent. The climate here is far more hospitable than West Texas. Annual rainfall ranges from 25 to 30 inches, and the limestone-based soils are fertile enough to support vegetable gardens and small orchards without heroic effort. You can raise chickens, goats, or a few head of cattle. The land produces food, which is a huge advantage when you're trying to minimize your grocery budget. Connectivity is better here than almost anywhere else on this list. Fiber optic internet is being extended into many rural areas, and Starlink provides a backup option if fiber isn't available. That combination allows you to run a remote business or stay connected connected to family without relying on spotty cellular service. For retirees who want off-grid independence but aren't ready to give up fast internet, the Hill Country delivers both. The property tax freeze at age 65 is especially valuable in Llano and Saba because land values in the Hill Country are rising. A property you buy today for $80,000 might be worth $150,000 in 10 years, but your tax bill stays locked at the 65-year-old rate. You're insulated from the gentrification happening around you, at least in terms of taxes. The downside is that the window is closing. Population density is increasing, and with it comes pressure to adopt stricter codes and zoning rules. What's true today might not be true in 5 years. Some parts of Brewster County, which used to have similar freedoms, are now requiring permits and inspections even for rural builds. Llano and Saba haven't gone that direction yet, but the trend is clear. For people who want a green, pleasant climate with the option to live off-grid, Llano and Saba represent the last accessible pockets of the Hill Country. You're within a reasonable drive of Austin or San Antonio, you've got good connectivity, and the land can actually support a homestead. The trade-off is that you're paying more per acre than you would in the desert, and the freedom you're buying might not last forever. Terrell County. Terrell County is for people who want to disappear. It has one of the lowest population densities in the continental United States, and large parts of the county feel more like the frontier than the modern South. If absolute solitude is your goal, Terrell County delivers that in a way no other place on this list can match. Land here is sold in large parcels, typically ranging from 100 to over 1,000 acres, and the cost per acre can drop below $800 for raw, unimproved tracts. There are no building codes outside of city limits, and the regulatory environment is essentially non-existent. You can build whatever you want. You can live in an RV indefinitely. The county government is small, understaffed, and primarily concerned with maintaining roads and providing emergency services. The primary economic advantage is the total absence of municipal fees. You're not paying for water, sewer, trash pickup, or any other service that comes standard in a city. If you can secure an agricultural or wildlife valuation on your property, your annual tax bill can be measured in the low hundreds of dollars, even on a tract that spans several hundred acres. When combined with the over 65 freeze, you've effectively eliminated property tax as a meaningful expense. But Terrell County is hard mode. The terrain is canyon-heavy scrubland, and the climate is semi-arid with brutal summer heat. Water is the constant challenge. Wells in this region often need to reach depths of 1,000 feet or more, and drilling costs can exceed $25,000. If you don't have that capital up front, your alternative is large-scale rainwater catchment, which means designing your entire living structure around water collection and storage. Some residents install cisterns that hold 10,000 gallons or more, using every available roof surface to maximize capture during sporadic rains. Energy is less of a problem because Terrell County has excellent solar potential, and the wide-open landscape means you're not fighting tree cover for panel placement. A 5-kilowatt solar array with battery storage will power a modest off-grid home indefinitely. Propane is typically used for heating and cooking, and a 500-gallon tank can last a year or more depending on usage. The real trade-off is medical access. This is not a place for someone with chronic health issues or a high risk of acute medical emergencies. The nearest advanced trauma center is hours away by ground transport, and while air medical services cover the region, the golden hour for trauma is often impossible to achieve. If you have a heart attack in the interior of Terrell County, your survival depends on whether a helicopter can reach you in time. For healthy retirees with a high degree of technical skill, this risk is manageable. For anyone else, it's a serious consideration. Terrell County is the absolute end of the spectrum. It's cheap, it's private, and it's free from almost all forms of government oversight, but you're paying for that freedom with isolation, infrastructure challenges, and the knowledge that if something goes wrong, help is a long way off. Jasper and Newton counties. Jasper and Newton counties sit on the Texas-Louisiana border, and they represent a fundamentally different approach to off-grid living. This is the land of the timber industry, where the piney woods stretch in every direction, and water is so abundant that managing it becomes the challenge rather than sourcing it. For people who want off-grid independence but can't stomach the aridity of West Texas, this region offers a lush, forested alternative. The economic model here revolves around timber exemptions. Similar to agricultural valuations, land used for commercial timber production is appraised at its productive value rather than its market value. You can buy 50 acres of mature pine forest, clear a small section for a cabin, and pay minimal property taxes while the surrounding trees continue to grow and appreciate. A 19-acre tract in southern Jasper County with dual road frontage and a mix of pine and hardwood was recently listed for $158,921. A 9-acre wooded lot in Hardin County with utilities nearby went for $72,000. The defining feature of Jasper and Newton is rainfall. The region receives over 50 inches of rain annually, which makes rainwater harvesting almost absurdly effective. A relatively small roof area can collect enough water to sustain a household year-round, and when you pair that with large storage tanks, you're essentially eliminating water as a recurring cost. You're collecting constantly, and the only real concern is overflow during the wettest months. The high humidity and forest cover also provide natural cooling, which reduces the energy needed for air conditioning in summer. If you design your cabin with good airflow and shade from the surrounding trees, you can keep interior temperatures manageable without running a compressor constantly. That drops your energy requirements, which means you can get by with a smaller solar array or stay connected to the grid at minimal cost. The proximity to Jasper, a town with medical facilities and major retailers, gives you a safety net that's absent in the more remote counties. You're not hours from a grocery store. You're not completely cut off if the weather turns bad. The balance between independence and access makes this a soft off-grid experience. The challenges are moisture related. High humidity means you need to manage mold and mildew in your living space, and flooding is a real risk during hurricane season. Site selection is critical. You want high, well-drained ground, not a low spot that turns into a swamp when the rains come. The tree cover, while providing privacy and resources, also limits your solar efficiency. You'll need to clear a large area if you're planning to rely entirely on solar. For someone who wants off-grid living but prefers green forest to open desert, Jasper and Newton are the obvious choice. Water security is built into the landscape. The timber provides both income potential and building materials. The proximity to Louisiana and the Gulf Coast keeps you connected to larger markets without sacrificing rural privacy. Presidio County. Presidio County is where the desert meets the art world, and the result is a kind of cultural off-grid scene that doesn't exist anywhere else in Texas. The town of Marfa has become famous as an artist colony, drawing people from around the world who come for the minimalist aesthetic and the high desert light. But beyond the trendy parts of the county, there's still raw land available at prices that make off-grid living financially viable, and the combination of solar potential and recent graywater recycling laws makes this region particularly interesting for sustainable design. Small lots in Presidio County can be found for as low as $4,600 for just over 10 acres, though prices in areas near Marfa have been climbing due to the town's popularity. The average annual rainfall is only 12 to 14 inches, which means water management is just as critical here as it is in Brewster or Terrell. The difference is that Texas House Bill 1902 expanded the legal uses of gray water, wastewater from showers, sinks, and washing machines to include indoor applications like toilet flushing. That change allows off-gridders to recycle a much larger percentage of their water, reducing the total amount they need to source from wells or hauling. Innovative residents utilize a combination of gray water recycling and high-efficiency rainwater catchments to maximize every drop. The solar potential in Presidio County is among the highest in Texas, and the addition of wind power makes this one of the few places where you can realistically run a hybrid renewable system. Small wind turbines can supplement your solar panels during nighttime or cloudy periods, which provides a more resilient energy mix. The upfront cost is higher, but for someone committed to eliminating all recurring energy expenses, the combination of solar and wind delivers redundancy that a solar-only system can't match. The high wind potential in parts of the county allows for small-scale wind turbines to supplement solar power, providing a diversified and resilient energy mix. Building restrictions in rural parts of the county are minimal, which puts Presidio in the same regulatory category as most of the other counties on this list. You can build what you want as long as you're not creating a health hazard. The cultural environment around Marfa adds a layer of creative community that you don't find in the more isolated desert counties, and that can be valuable if you're the kind of person who needs occasional interaction with like-minded people. You're living off-grid, but you're not cut off from a social network. The trade-off is that parts of Presidio County are becoming expensive. The Marfa effect has driven up land prices in certain areas, and what used to be cheap desert is now being marketed as high-end rural real estate. The farther you get from Marfa, the more affordable it becomes. But you're also giving up the proximity to the town's amenities and cultural scene. It's a balancing act between price and access, and the right choice depends on how much you value being part of that community versus maximizing your financial independence. While parts of the county are becoming expensive due to the popularity of Marfa, the rural areas remain highly affordable for those willing to position themselves away from the cultural hub. For people who want the arid beauty of the high desert but also want to be part of a creative, intellectually engaged community, Presidio County offers something unique. The landscape is stark and beautiful. The solar and wind resources are excellent. The gray water laws give you tools for water efficiency that other counties don't have. And if you position yourself correctly, you can live independently while still being within reach of a town that attracts artists, writers, and retirees from around the world. The reason Texas works for off-grid living isn't just cheap land or lenient building codes. It's the combination of constitutional protections, like the 65+ property tax freeze, and a state culture that still defaults to leaving landowners alone unless they're causing a problem. You can engineer a lifestyle where your recurring costs are reduced to food, fuel, and internet, but it requires matching the right county's resources to your specific needs and limitations. Water is the hard limit. If you can't solve it affordably, the location doesn't work. In West Texas, the recurring cost of water hauling or the extreme depth of wells is the primary financial hurdle. In East Texas, the hurdle is land price and moisture management. Healthcare is the soft limit. The extreme isolation of Terrell or Hudspeth might be manageable at 60, but by 75, proximity to a trauma center starts to matter more. The move to the most remote counties is often a 10-year plan for retirees who may later relocate to semi-off-grid areas like Val Verde or Llano as their need for proximity to level 1 or 2 trauma centers increases. The counties on this list represent different points on that spectrum, and the right choice depends on where you are in your life, what skills you bring, and how much infrastructure investment you're willing to make up front. The Starlink revolution changed the equation entirely. 20 years ago, living in the interior of Brewster County meant being genuinely cut off. Now you can have faster internet than most suburban neighborhoods while sitting on a canyon rim 100 miles from the nearest town. That connectivity makes remote work possible, keeps you in touch with family, and provides access to emergency services through cellular-based systems. It's the invisible utility that makes modern off-grid living sustainable. As of 2025, Starlink coverage is available across all rural Texas counties for a flat monthly fee of around $120, providing internet speeds that exceed those found in many urban areas. The financial model is straightforward. You're trading one large capital expense for the elimination of recurring bills. A $25,000 solar system replaces decades of electric bills. A $10,000 well replaces a lifetime of water bills. A wildlife valuation replaces thousands of dollars in annual property taxes with a $100 filing fee. Once those systems are in place and the tax status is secured, your monthly expenses collapse to whatever you spend on groceries, propane, and your internet connection. That's not free, but it's as close as you're going to get in the United States without moving into a van. The people who succeed at this are the ones who treat it like a long-term infrastructure project, not a lifestyle experiment. They phase into the land, living in an RV while they build out their water and power systems. They spend time learning the local regulations and tax codes. They develop relationships with neighbors who've been doing this longer and can help when something breaks. They plan for the fact that their needs will change as they age, and they position themselves close enough to medical care that a health crisis doesn't turn into a logistical nightmare. By strategically matching a region's natural resources with the appropriate tax valuations and infrastructure investments, a resident of Texas can engineer a lifestyle where the primary recurring costs are reduced to food, fuel, and data. Texas isn't handing you a free retirement, it's handing you the tools to build one yourself if you're willing to do the work. The counties on this list are where those tools are most accessible, where the barriers are lowest, and where the long-term cost of independence approaches something most retirees can actually afford. The question isn't whether it's possible, it's whether you're the kind of person who wants to do it.